All right, hello everyone. I'm Lonnie with Untitled Nerd Network, brought to you by both Infinity Flux and your local Satanist out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Here with Kenny to talk about um, man eaters, the state of comic books, what I'm assuming is advocacy in comic books, social justice, and that type of thing. For like disclaimer, you and I have never talked through video, or this is the first time we've ever been face to face. Um, a little bit of
Yep.
background. We talked a bit on Facebook. There was a discussion on one of the comic book groups that kind of went crazy. And then I was like, "Look, dude," I reached out to you. I was like, "Look, we need to let's do this on the channel. Let's talk about it. Let's let's give our opinions and then let the people decide. Like we'll talk. I'll give my opinion. You give your opinion. We'll kind of go back and forth a little bit, and then we'll ask people to comment below on the YouTube channel. So, first off, for those who don't know, Man Eaters is a book by Chelsea Kane that is really, really strong feminist in nature and is about young girls through the mutation of a bacteria in literal cat crap becomes giant man-eating cats, and there's a lot of different messages and stuff throughout the book. Uh, Me personally, I honest to God think it's one of the best books over the last 5 years, but you don't share that opinion. And I want to know your opinion on the book and why.
Well, there's a few reasons I don't like it. I mean, it's kind of a stale book to start with. The artwork isn't anything that kind of jumps out at you. And I don't know, like their solution to this problem of young girls turning into giant man-eating cats is to make them stop menstruating. And you think they would have taken another route with that, like kind of like Zombrex, where it's just like an inoculation they got to take every day. So they kind of, I don't know, they didn't seem like they had a really good idea to try and cure this. I mean, they know where it comes from, they know who it affects, they know all these things about it, but instead of trying to take this from a genuine scientist perspective and try and actually cure it or just suppress it, they're like, okay, we're just gonna make girls not get periods anymore. I'm like, all right, well, that's kind of fucking dumb.
Well, I think it was through the water supply. They just basically, it was almost like fluoride in toothpaste, is what, or fluoride in the
Mm-hmm.
water, for dental health. They put these chemicals in the water to cause this. And I mean, it does, like from the outside looking in, it does look like a garbage idea, but at the same time, what's the word? They basically, went their way by saying, hey, they did this with fluoride. Like, I actually think that was mentioned in the book to kind of, I don't really know what the word I'm looking for is, but they justified it by using that example. But I do see how, like, where you're coming from in regards to that particular thing. So, I mean, is it, I have, did you have an opinion on this book before you heard about it? Or,
Yeah, I watched a review about it from Diversity in Comics. You know,
yeah.
he's just one of a few YouTubers to watch on it. And after watching him and then actually reading the book myself, I'd say that quite a few of the things that he touched on, I kind of felt the same way about. I mean, it's not a book that I would say is just complete garbage, but it's not something that I would say is like the best thing I've ever read.
Well, it was,
It's
in all honesty, it's not really written for you. It's not really written for me either. I just so happen to latch on and enjoy it. Um, like for example, I actually got this book, the first two issues. Issue two came out yesterday. I actually got the first two issues for my daughter. Like I'm going to give them to her and let her. That's the 11 to like 16-year old girl is really the target audience for this, and there's going to be people who are into it, kind of like there's the 40 to 50-year-old men who are into My Little Pony. Not going to judge, just saying that's kind of what we're getting here.
Yeah, I don't really get that either, but to each their own, I guess.
Now, I mean, just I said, full disclaimer, you have read the first two issues. Like I sent them to
Yeah.
you, and I was like, hey, I would like for you to read this before we have a discussion. You did, and so what was just was there anything about the book that you actually enjoyed? Was there anything there that you liked?
I will say in the second issue, the way they started to portray the father did start to kind of pique my interest. When they're in the crime scene, they got that cat that's actively out and about, and he went after it, and I said, all right, well, this dude's kind of a badass. He doesn't look as frumpy as he did in the first issue.
Well, that was from his daughter's perspective. Like he looked like, I guess, a jackass from the perspective of his 12-year-old daughter. But when he's out and
Well,
about,
pansy is the thing, but when he's actually out doing his job and he's, out trying to track this shit down, he's actually kind of a badass dude, and I did appreciate that.
oh, I love it. Yeah, I can totally get that. Like, and really, I think probably the coolest thing to me, besides the interactions between the family, I thought that was realistic. Um, did you enjoy the fake ads in the book at all?
Not really. I mean, it's just not my cup of tea.
Like over the top, or did you just not enjoy it in
It's just,
general?
I didn't like it in general, and it just seemed kind of ridiculous. I mean,
Okay.
and the whole thing with the family, like when she's telling her dad that she used his mustache trimmer to trim her pubes, I'm like, who the fuck tells their parents that? That doesn't
I
seem
was.
super realistic.
I'm
Fucking
not.
tell them like that.
I don't really like. May I ask if you have kids?
Not yet, but
No.
me and
Okay.
my girlfriend are trying.
I'm. I'm like me. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I couldn't see that being a real uh conversation. Like maybe some fringe element out there, maybe if she was just so irritated, so pissed off about something, and then just let that fact out of her mouth, kind of like one of those things where you're really pissed off and you're not thinking about what you're saying. uh that's about the closest I could come to that being a real situation. I could just about back you on that one. That the her telling her dad that, it was almost like a cringe moment.
Yeah,
I was like,
it
oh
did make me cringe.
God, we just had a 12-year-old girl tell her dad that. That's I don't know the way like younger kids operate these days. I mean, I know that they're kind of becoming a little more adultish. I mean, God, you hear all the time, like the young teens are, using Snapchat to send nudes to each other and crap. And I'm like, dear God, man. Whenever I was
That's not exactly sure. That's just kids being absolutely stupid.
true, and I mean, I don't remember that being a thing when I was 12 or 13. Hell, we didn't even have phones that could do that. Um,
Yeah, we have yeah.
yeah, we had like Nokia, yeah, those bricks. But it seems like I don't know if this was an accurate representation of a preteen girl, but it did seem a little over the top. I'll give you that.
It seems like what a 30-year-old woman or a 30-year-old man would want a 12-year-old girl to be, in my opinion. Like that's what they picture a little girl wanting to be like, but they're trying to kind of force adult shit into what's supposed to be a child.
I can't really argue against that. Like I really can't. And the big thing is I don't know enough about preteen culture at this point to really make any kind of real assumption. Um,
Yeah.
so either one of us could be right on that one. Who the hell knows? But have there been any other? Because I think if I'm not, I don't know if it was you or not, but I think there may have been a couple of instances during our online banter that we were having where it was mentioned perhaps maybe this has become more of an issue in comics lately. Do you have any kind of issue with social justice at all being put into comics? Because, like I was saying, back in the early 60s, it was an issue. It's just we didn't have the internet, you know, telling us on a daily basis what the messages behind these comics were.
Yeah, I've got a problem with that. I mean, I don't want an agenda pushed into something I'm trying to read. I just want it to be a good, compelling story with interesting characters. Like that's all that matters to me. I don't give a fuck who's writing it or what it's about as long as it's interesting.
And of course, you didn't find this interesting.
Not
Um,
not in any way.
well, it was one of the main arguments that I see a lot, like on Facebook and in a lot of your comic groups, is people are saying the number one argument. Now, hear me out on this. The number one argument is I don't like what they're doing with Iceman. I don't like what they're doing with all these other characters, whether they're making them gay or pushing some kind of agenda. They need, or, you know, like making Captain America black or making Thor a woman, that kind of thing. The main argument is I don't like what they're doing to these characters. They need to create their own characters to do that with.
That's
So
fine.
that's what they're doing with this. This is a brand new property. So
It's just not a very good or interesting property. I mean, I'll 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 give it to them if they try to turn Captain America into a 12-year-old girl that's dealing with the fucking period problems, and I'd have an issue with that.
what was what was just out of curiosity on a scale of 1 to 10, what did you rate the first issue? Being completely honest.
Maybe just probably a 2. I mean,
What about the second issue? You said it was a little bit better.
that's probably a 3. I mean,
Really? That bad?
they gotta flush out more of the characters and try and do some more with the storyline before I ever give it anything higher than that. But from what I've seen so far, it's not impressive.
I tell you what, honest to God, I would like at some point, I think we're just about to the wrapping up point, but I would like to. Do you think you could give it a chance if you're not having to like? Do you think you could take my advanced review copies and read these for a couple more months to see if the story builds to a point where you'd be cool with it?
Yeah, I'd be open to doing that.
Okay, I mean, I'm just if you'd have said no, I'd have been like, okay, we'll move on. But I'm curious. I'm just curious. Somebody who does not care for the concept to see if they present it in a way that somebody that absolutely despises the first couple of issues, if it can eventually grow on them with what they do with a story. Um, I have kind of read some of the solicitations for like issues 5 and 6, you know, that are a couple of months down the road, and they're actually talking like a bunch of girls are going to get together and make kind of a team, which sounded neat to me. But then I think they phrased it something like taking down the patriarchy, which probably wouldn't be your thing. But but yeah, I just wanted to give like a good, legit, honest, thought-provoking conversation with somebody who absolutely loves the book and somebody who really can't stand the book. So anyway, Kenny, I appreciate you coming on, man. And maybe we can do this again after we've got a few more books under our belt.
Yeah, we can see how that'll go.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm Lonnie with Untitled Nerd Network, brought to you by Infinity Flux, comic book store out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and your local Satanist, awesome eatery. Remember, she'll be having her vegan holiday plates are open for pre-order now. So check those out, and we'll see everybody later on. Remember, we're doing live video game streams from noon to 5 every weekday.